Hey, Zoe family, welcome back to another episode of Zoe in Motion. I'm Mercy.
And I'm Grace. And today we are diving into the extraordinary life of Kathryn Kuhlman, a woman of faith who walked in the power of the Holy Spirit like never before.
If this is your first time here, welcome. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and stay connected because we've got an exciting AI animation coming up, bringing Kathryn Kuhlman's story to life.
That's right. And if you love faith, history, and inspiration, you're in the right place. Now, Mercy, let's get into it. Who was Kathryn Kuhlman?
Imagine drawing crowds so massive that auditoriums would fill up in under an hour, with thousands still waiting outside, all to see one woman in a white dress say, "I believe in miracles." That was the extraordinary power of Kathryn Kuhlman, though her story begins in the most unlikely of places.
You know, what fascinates me is how someone from such humble beginnings could have such an enormous impact. What was her early life like?
Well, picture this tiny crossroads town in Missouri Concordia population, barely 1,200. Her father was the mayor, and she grew up with this interesting spiritual dynamic. Baptist father, Methodist mother. She'd alternate between their churches each Sunday.
That must have given her quite a unique perspective on faith from an early age.
Oh, it definitely shaped her. But here's what's fascinating. She actually dropped out of high school and started her ministry by cleaning out turkey houses and chicken coops just to have places to preach. She used to joke that she only knew how to preach about salvation, so people would get saved night after night.
So what was the turning point that transformed her from preaching in chicken coops to filling massive auditoriums?
Well, it wasn't a straight path. She actually hit rock bottom first. See, she built this thriving church in Denver with 2,000 members, but then made what she called her greatest mistake, marrying Burroughs Waltrip. She actually fainted during the wedding ceremony and had to be revived just to say her vows.
That sounds like quite a warning sign.
You know what's wild? Before they even started their honeymoon, she ran crying to a friend's hotel room saying she'd made a terrible mistake. Those years became what she called her wilderness period. Waltrip wouldn't let her preach, and people who saw her then described her sitting on stage during his services, quietly crying.
What an emotionally devastating time that must have been. How did she find her way back?
It came down to this incredible moment on a dead-end street in Los Angeles. She described it as the day Kathryn Kuhlman died. She looked up to heaven and said, "God, I have nothing left but my love for you." But rebuilding wasn't easy. One time in the South, she was preaching to 2,000 people when the pastor literally walked on stage, took her microphone, and had her escorted out of town for being divorced.
That level of public humiliation must have been crushing. Yet somehow she went on to become known for these remarkable healing services.
Right. And here's what made them so unique. Unlike other healers who would lay hands on people, Kuhlman would simply stand on stage and describe healings as they were happening throughout the audience. The St. Louis Globe-Democrat reported that by 1948, over 2 million people had been healed through her ministry.
That's an extraordinary number. How did the medical community respond to these claims?
Well, that's one of the most fascinating aspects. Numerous doctors and scientists documented cases they couldn't explain. There's this one case of a scientist who had been told he could never use a hearing aid because the nerves in both ears were completely dead. During one service, his hearing was suddenly restored, and this was documented by medical professionals.
You know, it's interesting how she managed to bridge the gap between faith healing and medical science.
Exactly, and she was remarkably humble about it all. She'd actually get upset if people called her a faith healer, insisting, "I have no healing power." Before every service, she'd pace backstage going through what she called 1,000 deaths, completely dependent on what she called her friend the Holy Spirit.
So how did her remarkable story ultimately end?
Well, she collapsed at the Shrine Auditorium in Los Angeles after one final healing service. Her heart had grown to twice its normal size. When Oral Roberts came to pray for her healing in the hospital, she indicated she was ready for heaven. But you know what she always said she wanted to tell Jesus when she met him? "I tried. I did the best that I knew how."
That's quite a legacy, from cleaning chicken coops to impacting millions of lives.
And that's really the heart of her story. how someone from the humblest beginnings, even after major setbacks, could achieve something extraordinary by simply being willing to be used for something bigger than themselves. She showed that spiritual healing could coexist with medical science, and perhaps most importantly, she demonstrated the power of second chances.
Whew! What an episode. If Kathryn's story blessed you, drop it in the comments.
And don't forget to subscribe to our channel because Kathryn Kuhlman's AI animation is coming soon.
Thank you for tuning in to Zoe in Motion. Stay surrendered, stay yielded, and keep moving in faith.